military dog hears a heartbeat beneath a cargo plane, and that single moment unravels a hidden trafficking ring masked as humanitarian aid. From secret tunnels to erased identities, every clue points to something darker, and it all starts with the dog who refused to stay silent. If stories like this speak to you, tap like, hit subscribe, and stay close. I'd love to know, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments and tell me which part stayed with you most. The rain came soft over the JFK tarmac that morning, misting the sunlit horizon in a blurred glaze of silver. Inside the K9 security van near Gate 37, Officer No Greer rubbed the back of his neck and looked over at his partner. Rook, the seasoned German shepherd, sat erect, tail still, ears angled forward with surgical focus. They had been together for 5 years, logged over 100 drug busts and 2 child rescue cases, but today felt oddly quiet. Noah stepped out of the van as the handler on duty waved him over. Greer, we've got an international charter, private. Just protocol sweep, nothing flagged. The plane in question, a sleek Bombardier Global 6000, stood under the watchful glare of the tower, engines humming low, as if impatient to be airborne. Noah gave a half nod, clipping Rook's leash. Let's make it quick. As they approached, Rook slowed. Not a hesitation, but something different. His head tilted, nose twitching, not toward the cargo hold, not the luggage ramp, but at the plane's belly itself. Noah followed his gaze. You smell something? He muttered. Rook's response wasn't immediate movement, but a sound. Low, deliberate, almost puzzled. A second later, the dog lurched forward and sniffed frantically along the tarmac beneath the rear hatch. Then he stopped, stared, then barked, short, abrupt, and sharp. He barked again. A second ground officer stepped in, a clipboard in hand, clearly annoyed. It's a state agent's Middle Eastern delegation. We don't get to delay these. At that exact moment, a woman in a red pantsuit stepped off the stairway to the tarmac. Black sunglasses, hair in a tight twist, and an expression as unreadable as polished stone. Is there a problem? Her accent was American, neutral, rehearsed. Canine reaction. We just need a minute more. With all due respect, she said calmly. We're on a diplomatic schedule. That dog is reacting to nothing. Perhaps a lunch wrapper? Her eyes flicked to Rook, then back to Noah. Is there a supervisor I can speak to? Noah didn't answer. He was listening, but not to her. Rook had gone still again, chest rising fast. The air felt different here. Pest about scent, more like something resonant, vibrational. That's when Noah remembered something from an old training manual, buried deep in behavioral addendums. Heartbeats. Some elite dogs exposed to trauma recovery had once been recorded reacting to the faint thump of a human heartbeat, even through walls. It had never been standard training, no one had validated it. But now Rook was facing the underside of the plane again, and this time, instead of barking, he whined. Soft, desperate. Noah's voice was low. There's someone down there, isn't there? The woman stepped closer. This aircraft has been cleared by your TSA. I'm requesting this inspection ends now. If you continue, it's a breach of international protocol. She didn't blink. She didn't raise her voice, but her fingers, he noticed, clenched once. Something in her tone didn't fit. Not urgency, but finality. Noah glanced at the flight manifest displayed on the tablet offered by the agent next to him. 4 passengers, 2 diplomatic escorts, 1 flight tech cargo, medical equipment, humanitarian crates. All sealed, all coded. Open the panel, Noah said. Just that one. I can't authorize that, the agent whispered. She's right, it's state property. Then get someone who can. His voice had hardened. Rook stepped back from the underbelly hatch and barked again, this time sharply, just once. The woman didn't wait. She tapped her earpiece. Alpha. Wheels up now. The jet's engines surged as the ladder retracted. Ma'am, you can't, the agent began, but she was already boarding. In seconds, the door sealed and the aircraft began its slow roll down the taxi line. Noah stood frozen. Rook barked twice more, as sharper than the last. As the jet turned toward the runway, a tiny rattling sound echoed against the van's side panel. Not metal, not debris, something else. Noah spun toward the source. It had come from inside the cargo crate beside them. 3 soft taps. Tap, tap, tap. He stared at Rook. The dog's ears were forward, tail stiff. His whole body leaned toward the sound, not just alert but engaged. Greer to tower, delay all departure from... There was silence on the comms for a beat, then chaos. The runway shutdown had triggered a cascade of alarms across JFK's control towers, and within 20 minutes, 3 vehicles from Homeland Security, 2 NYPD cruisers, and a federal marshal's unmarked SUV converged near Gate 37. The jet in question, forced into a holding pattern after NOAA's emergency transmission, had been ordered back to the tarmac under a federal no-exit order. By the time its engines cooled on the far end of the field, a command post had formed in haste, with floodlights glaring and tempers rising. NOAA stood beside Rook as the special inspection team worked methodically. The charter jet, now surrounded, was no longer protected by diplomatic silence. Someone in DC had made a call, a quiet override, and the plane was being stripped, one panel at a time. But what they found wasn't what anyone expected. It started with the auxiliary fuel bay, an odd place to hide anything, but Rook had scratched at the seams with growing urgency. When the panel came off, there was no human being inside, no person, but there was something else. A smear of dried blood, thin, almost brushed on, the kind of residue left behind not from trauma, but from contact, as if someone had been pressed there against metal for hours. Jesus, one of the techs murmured, lifting the swab into a test tube. It's human, female, said the other, checking the trace results. Type O negative. NOAA watched them in silence. Titan. The woman in the red suit was gone now, detained for questioning but already cloaked in layers of diplomatic immunity no one could peel fast enough. She had said it was medical cargo. She had said there was nothing alive inside. Yet the blood said otherwise. How the hell do you hide a person in a sealed tank without suffocating them? One agent asked. You don't, said NOAA quietly. Unless she wasn't meant to survive. The statement hung in the air like smoke. Nearby, Rook circled the fuel bay once more, then sat rigid, alert, staring into the hollow dark. She was alive when we approached, NOAA added. We heard it. That was an hour ago, said the technician, not unkindly. If she was injured, she might not have made it. NOAA didn't respond. His eyes drifted toward the mobile surveillance unit, now being set up beside them. One of the agents approached him. We pull CCT from the tower access angle, the man said, lifting a tablet. But there's a problem. He hit play, the video showed the bombardier jet taxiing into position. Then abruptly the footage glitched. Not once, but in a loop, static distortion, then pixelation, then sudden blur, right as the jet turned toward the departure gate. Tampered? NOAA asked. No system breach. We ran diagnostics. It's not a software hack. Looks like electromagnetic interference. Accidental? The agent gave him a flat look. Not likely. Only this plane, only this window. The image paused again on the blurred frame. The fuselage shimmered like heat waves, as if something was pushing against the lens itself. Audio still intact, he added, or visuals. But listen. The agent hit play again, this time toggling the audio channel. At first, there was only the ambient hum of runway activity, distant engines, clicks of equipment, faint voices on intercom. Then came something else. Tap, tap, tap. Faint but rhythmic. NOAA's hand went instinctively to Rook's back, steadying the dog as if the sound might wake some primal instinct in both of them. The agent didn't say anything. He just let the recording loop. Tap, tap, tap. He was still alive, NOAA said, barely more than a whisper, trying to signal, and we missed it. We didn't miss it, the agent replied. You didn't, that dog didn't. But she's not here, NOAA snapped. Voice rising, there's no body, just traces, no blood trail, no footprints, nothing. The agent paused, then glanced sideways. Except one thing. He led NOAA toward a separate work table where a field analyst was dusting a strip of black rubber, the interior lip of the jet's undercarriage hatch. Prints? NOAA asked. The analyst nodded. Partial handprint, small, likely female, and here's the kicker, it matches an unsolved missing person case. Names Isabella Marquez. Reported missing 3 years ago, case went cold. Last seen near Laredo, Texas. 17 at the time. NOAA felt something tighten behind his ribs. How the hell does she end up here? Better question, the agent said. Why does a missing teenager from Texas end up inside a diplomatic plane landing at JFK? The silence answered for them. Rook let out a low, uncertain whine. Noah knelt beside him. "What are you picking up, buddy?" Rook's ears were twitching now, not forward but to the left, toward the perimeter fence. Noah stood. "We need every piece of cargo off that jet." "Everything. Already underway," the analyst said. "But we've got another problem." He turned the screen toward Noah. A new camera angle. The jet on final approach. The moment the ramp extended, visible figures emerging. The woman in red. 2 men behind her. But there was someone else. A flash. Barely a silhouette. Inside the plane just before the door closed, Noah narrowed his eyes. "Can you enhance that frame?" "Already tried. Resolution's too low." "Then track the passenger list." "Who's missing?" The agent frowned. "We're still decoding. Some of the entries are aliases, but one credential, just one, doesn't check out at all." "Meaning?" "It's blank. No name, no country, just clearance level. And that level is above mine." Noah's stomach dropped. Rook barked once, sharper now. The agent looked around. "Where is that sound coming from?" It wasn't Rook, it was the tablet still playing the looped audio. And now, just beneath the tap tap tap, a breath. Faint, raspy, almost like a whisper, unintelligible but real. "Replay it," Noah said. The analyst did. They all leaned in. This time the breath came again. Then a voice, weak, broken, but clearly one word. The audio file played on repeat in the field office long after the runway had cleared. Looping the faint tap-tap of the FAP, repeatedly whispered, "No," over and over again like a ghost refusing to fade. Noah stood motionless in front of the soundboard, jaw locked, eyes unreadable as agents around him worked furiously through manifests, biometric logs, and clearance lists, each dead end pushing tension higher. 2 hours after the flight had been grounded, Homeland Security's biometric database pinged a red-level match. 2 of the passengers listed as diplomatic security consultants were flagged. Both had facial recognition hits matching separate missing persons cases. Both 3 years old, both unsolved, both presumed dead. The first, Carlos Esteban Cruz, last seen in Tijuana before crossing into El Paso. The second, Tamara Lee Burton, vanished from a foster shelter in Queens, under the radar after her caseworkers stopped answering calls. "You're telling me these people just showed up on a chartered flight from Doha with forged clearances and no one caught it?" Noah asked, voice clipped. "The aliases checked out on surface-level databases," one of the analysts replied, not meeting his eye. "But deep match algorithms just caught the bone structure. Partial ear shape, dental match from Cruz's arrest record in 2018. And Burton, missing child report. We pulled it from the state archive. It was buried. No active caseworker since 2020. Noah paced slowly, Rook shadowing him like a second conscience. "These weren't diplomat," he muttered. "They were victims. Or still are," someone whispered near the back. The air tightened. Noah stared at the large board of names, photos, and timelines being built in real time. What once was a diplomatic clearance list had now become a wall of ghosts, half of whom didn't exist in any government database, the other half presumed to be buried or trafficked or lost. "Pull Rook's old case logs," Noah said suddenly, turning toward a junior field tech, "before he got transferred to cargo screening." "Because Rook wasn't trained for narcotics," Noah said. Tone sharpened. "He was trained for human scent under duress. And this reaction, that tap pattern, that low growl he gives when it's not drugs or explosives, it's specific." "He was reclassified as Airport K9 in 2022, the tech replied. "Says here he was too intense for domestic investigations." Noah scoffed. "You know what that means?" "You really?" "It means he didn't let something go when others were told to stand down." They pulled Rook's archived activity log through DHS servers, each entry a time-stamped case file, from crossbencher interceptions to joint task forces with ICE and FBI. Near the bottom, a folder marked OPH keyhole came up redacted. "That's a black file," the analyst said. "Access denied." "Who can open it?" "Only level 7. Get for no one? He retired last year." Silence fell. "No one replaced him," the analyst said. "Keyhole went dark the day after Monroe stepped down. There's no new handler assigned. No contact. It's like the unit disappeared." Noah leaned over the desk, his voice low. "Rook was on a bust 2 years ago in Nevada. Truck trailer, 3 heat signatures. The call went out and 20 minutes later DHS shut down the scene. Said it was a misread. Rook was pulled from the task force and sent to logistics. Nobody talked about it again. He looked down at the dog beside him, whose calm gaze met his without flinching. "You didn't misread anything, did you?" Rook blinked slowly. A new alert pinged on the monitor. "We just got a hit from a shelter in Phoenix," the field agent called out. "Backtrace of a teenage girl booked under a false name 2 years ago. Same blood type as what we found in the auxiliary fuel bay." "What was the alias?" Rosa Valencia was one of the names Rook tracked in the Arizona bust. She disappeared before ICE could question her. Her file vanished. "You're moving people through airports using diplomatic cover," the agent said, horrified. "And no one's catching it because the passengers don't even exist on record." "Because they're not passengers," Noah muttered. The room went quiet. Rook suddenly stood, ears forward. Noah turned. An unfamiliar voice rang through the comms. Deep, measured American. "This is Special Liaison Marcus Dre. Shut down the terminal feed to Gate 37 immediately. This is a Tier 3 command." "Who the hell is Dre?" Noah asked. "Never heard of him," someone replied. The call wasn't routed through DHS, it came from a black agent code. "He's not Tier 3, he said after seconds. "That frequency is military, ghost registry, no domain. He's not DHS? He's someone above DHS." The audio from Gate 37's security feed suddenly dropped to static. "They just killed the channel," the analyst confirmed. Noah clenched his jaw. "They're cleaning up faster than we can expose it." Rook began pacing, something clearly off. A second later, a backup hard drive in the corner sparked. Just a tiny flick of static electricity, but enough. The room turned to Noah. "That's not coincidence," he said. "You're running interference even inside our lines." "But we still have the audio loop," someone said. "It's copied to an external petite frame, red scarf fluttering lightly, and a familiar posture. Frozen, watching them." The woman didn't flinch as the security team approached. She stood at the edge of the mist-drenched parking lot, wrapped in a weathered brown coat, red scarf tucked tightly around her neck. Her eyes, pale green and weary, locked directly onto Rook before glancing up at Noah. There was no fear in her stance, only something deeper, familiarity. "You're Officer Greer?" she asked softly as the agents held their distance, uncertain. "And that's Rook?" Noah nodded slowly, motioning the others to hold off. "Ma'am, this is an active investigation zone. I need to know who you are and why you're here." Her voice didn't waver. "My name is Lucia Marquez. My daughter was taken 3 years ago from El Paso." Noah's expression shifted almost imperceptibly, but something in the way Rook stepped forward, cautiously tail still, eyes focused, suggested she wasn't a stranger to him. "Isabella," she said. "My daughter's name was Isabella Marquez. You found her once, and then they moved you. They moved the dog, and the case disappeared." Noah swallowed. Rook's previous assignment, he hesitated, was in Texas, but his file was sealed, Lucia interrupted. Her tone soft but sharp. "I know, I tried everything. They said it was a mistake, said no one by that name was ever processed. But I kept digging. I kept remembering that night, the officer who called me, the one who said she was alive, barely, but then called back an hour later saying it was all a misunderstanding. The officer never existed." She reached into her coat, her hands trembling slightly, and pulled out a plastic sleeve. Inside was a letter, worn but preserved. "This is the last thing my daughter ever wrote me. She hid it in a library book she knew I would borrow." Noah took the letter gently, eyes scanning the faint pencil marks, the tight looping handwriting. "Mama, if anything happens and I can't reach you, please don't stop. If I'm moved, if I'm hidden, if I'm silenced, remember this. If I can, I will knock 3 times. Always 3. You'll know I'm there." Noah looked up slowly. Rook sat, watching the letter, then lifted his gaze to Lucia. "She knew," Noah said, his voice low. "She knew she'd be trafficked." "She wasn't stupid," Lucia replied, her tone cracking. "She knew the world didn't work for girls like her. She was too smart, too careful. And she knew something was coming. That's why she wrote that. She wanted me to have something that made it real." Noah's throat tightened. 3 taps, he whispered. "That's what we heard. And now you know why I'm here," Lucia said. "Because when I saw the news report about a dog who stopped a diplomatic plane, about a dog who barked without cause. I knew it had to be him. She looked at Rook again. He barked that same way when they found the truck in the desert. But they silenced it. They silenced all of it. An agent stepped out from the building. Noah, the lab just came back with a match on the partial fingerprint from the auxiliary tank. Confirmed it's Isabella Marquez. Lucia closed her eyes, just for a second. Then she opened them dry clear. So she was there, and she's still alive because that was her pattern. 3 taps. She's waiting. Somewhere. Noah's mind moved quickly now, threading together the faces, the logs, the files they couldn't open. The passengers who weren't passengers. U.S. cargo, he said, hidden under diplomatic seals. Moved like inventory. But she found a way to leave a trace. She found a way to remind you, Lucia said quietly, that she's still worth looking for. Inside the operations center, Rook's archived footage had finally been decrypted. One sequence stood out. Body cam footage from the Nevada bust 2 years prior. In the dim light of a storage container, Rook had alerted sharply, then gone still. The camera turned, revealing a tarp, and behind that a girl, barely breathing, bloodied but alive. The timestamp was 11:47 p.m. The next frame cut to black. Noah paused the feed. This was the bus that got buried. The girl in that frame? Her face matches the missing person's image for Isabella Marquez. They found her. Then they hid it. They didn't just hide it, Lucia murmured. They made it part of something bigger. She handed Noah another page, a photocopy. Faded, wrinkled. This was sent anonymously to me 6 months ago, she said. No return address, just this phrase at the bottom. For the ones who knock, we remember. The page was a manifest, not government-issued, but formatted like one. Column after column of female names, ages, and origin cities. Each marked with a red checkmark or a black X. One name stood out. Isabella Marquez Marquez, El Paso. Status transit. To where? Noah asked. Nobody knows, Lucia replied. But they're keeping records. Somewhere. Noah ran his hand through his hair. This isn't just a trafficking ring. It's a system. And the system doesn't leave mistakes behind, Lucia added. Unless it wants to. Outside, the mist had turned to light rain. Rook remained at Lucia's side now, unmoving, as if guarding her the way he once guarded her daughter. Noah stared at the list again, lips tightening. Then he tapped the file folder labeled OP Keyhole. It started here, he said. With this operation, we key find Anthiali said. And others. But her voice faltered for the first time. If you can do it before they erase the next one. Noah nodded slowly. Then he looked back at the wall where the audio wavefront from the auxiliary tank was still pinned. He walked over, hit play one more time. Tap, tap, tap. But this time there was something new beneath the taps. A breath. Then, a second voice. The second voice on the recording was faint but clear. Male, raspy, speaking what sounded like a code in broken Spanish and English fragments. Una da, tres vivo abajo. And then nothing but the familiar 3 knocks. This time followed by a single thump, almost like a dropped object or collapsing weight. Noah didn't wait for another playback. Get me the airport infrastructure schematics, he said, eyes sharp, adrenaline resurging. The analyst hesitated. That's handled by Port Authority, and the full blueprints require clearance. Then get clearance, Noah cut in. Now. Minutes later, a technician returned with a grim look and a thumb drive. We pulled an old copy from an engineering contractor who worked on the 2014 expansion. It's not current, but it's close. Noah opened the files on the central monitor, flipping through blueprint layers until he hit something unusual. A narrow access tunnel, unmarked on modern maps, running laterally between the cargo bay and the upper-level VIP lounges, bypassing all TSA checkpoints entirely. The pipe was narrow but not impossibly so. 3 feet wide, temperature-controlled, acoustically insulated. What the hell is this? One of the agents asked. A service duct. Too clean, Noah said, zooming in on the original note in faded engineering ink. Designated Path Zeta 1, Diplomatic Cargo Express Route, authorized bypath. This isn't public, he said, voice tightening. It was never meant to be. The timestamp matched the airport's Terminal 4 renovation, a project heavily backed by a now-defunct logistics firm, with shell ownership tracing to a Cayman-based holding group. They built it for silent transit, he said. This isn't a tunnel, it's a pipeline for people. Outside the operations room, the rain had turned heavier, drumming on the roof like static. Rook sat near the exit door, ears pricked, eyes darting toward a maintenance hallway as if sensing something beneath the ground itself. Noah followed instinct and led him down that hall, past janitorial carts and flickering fluorescent panels, until they reached a bolted steel door marked Hazmat Access, Authorized Personnel Only. The badge reader was disabled, but the bolt had been tampered with recently. Scratched paint, worn edges, and a faint smell of rubberized gloves. Noah crouched and unlocked it with a universal override key he wasn't supposed to have but kept for moments exactly like this. The tunnel inside wasn't lit, but Rook didn't hesitate. He moved ahead confidently, almost like memory guided him. The air was sterile, pumped in from overhead vents, and the curved steel walls muted every sound, turning their footsteps into soft thuds. After 50 yards, the tunnel split. Left sloped gently upward toward the terminal's VIP concourse. Right descended deeper toward the subflat road. At the fork, a small panel embedded into the wall blinked red. Noah approached, brushing dust away to reveal a biometric scanner. Long inactive but once capable of logging entries without flagging central security systems. This is how they moved her, he whispered, and how they moved the others. Rook pawed at the right path, growling low. We go down, Noah decided. Back in the control room, the identity of the woman in red, still in holding, finally cracked. Her fingerprints, suppressed by encryption protocols embedded in an ICE database, had been scrubbed 18 months ago, but deeper forensic cross-matching pulled up an archived ICE asset profile. Special Agent Eliza Voss, embedded operative in a multi-year trafficking takedown initiative along the southern border. Last active file, February 3rd, the year prior. Official status, presumed deceased. She's not dead, the analyst said aloud. She's here and she's part of this. Or trying to stop it, Noah replied through comms, voice low. She wasn't trying to leave, she was trying to protect whatever was in that plane. Then why attack you? Why force the plane into the air? You had no choice. Meanwhile, deeper in the tunnel, Noah found a secondary access port. Steel hatch with fresh fingerprints, marked with faint scuffing and a smeared heel print. The panel beside it displayed a string of characters etched by hand, barely legible. Unit 3, Room AB11, Transit Bay. The phrase matched the second voice on the recording. They're numbering humans like assets. Noah muttered. Unit 3 isn't a person, it's a product in their system. He activated a micro-drone and sent it through the hatch, guiding its infrared camera into the dark corridor beyond. What came back was not machinery but a holding bay, metal bunk surfaces, IV hooks, and a small sound sensor embedded in the ceiling. The drone's mic picked up nothing at first, then a faint sound, one knock, then silence. Noah exhaled. She's in there. This shouldn't exist, the technician said through comms. There are no permits, no medical clearances. This is a ghost facility, Noah said, built inside our airports under our rules using our systems. But never meant to be seen. Rook barked sharply, one paw raised. The tunnel head vibrated lightly like a pressure shift. Then footsteps echoed, not there, coming closer. The footsteps stopped just out of sight, the pressure in the tunnel hanging like a held breath. Noah raised his hand, weapon drawn but steady, signaling Rook to hold. The dog froze mid-step, muscles tense, ears up, nose quivering. Then a low voice came from the corridor's bend, familiar yet cautious. Greer? That you? The figure stepped into view, Kevon Mallory, former TSA Internal Affairs, one of the few men who'd ever worked a cross-division case with Rook back in their border enforcement days. His beard was grayer, eyes more sunken, but the stance was still that of someone who'd seen too much and trusted too little. You shouldn't be here, Kevon said, voice low and urgent. No one should, Kevon said, until I filed a report about unregistered passenger routing in Gulf ports. 3 days later, I was suspended for procedural misconduct. That was code. They wanted me quiet. Noah stared. You knew about the pipeline? Kevon nodded. Pieces of it. Nothing provable. But I flagged 5 discrepancies. 5 undocumented cargo moves where human thermal signatures were masked with medical equipment. The system marked them as anomalies, but instead of investigating, someone scrubbed the record. I pushed it, they pushed me out. Recognition. Kayvon smiled grimly. He remembers. Noah motioned him to follow. We're tracking something deeper. We found Unit 3, Isabella Marquez. She's alive, somewhere inside this maze. Kayvon's eyes flicked to the far door. Then you'd better see this. He pulled a flash drive from his coat pocket and handed it to Noah. I've been keeping it offline. Got it from a field tech who owed me a favor. Found it buried in the raw logs of Rook's Nevada bust, the one that got buried. Noah plugged it into his handheld terminal, and the screen flickered to life. Static. Then a dark hallway. A handheld camera shook slightly. The sound of Rook barking hard and fast echoed through a narrow space. He was clawing at a metal door. Full body lunges, teeth bared, not his standard alert posture. The handler, likely Noah himself, shouted off screen. Back, Rook, easy. But the dog kept barking, his tone fraying into desperation. Then came the voice. High, cracked, unmistakably young, speaking Spanish fast and frantic. Por favor, tap, tap, tap. Noah gripped the screen tighter. Kayvon whispered. The girl was in there, alive. We didn't open the door. Because they stopped us, Noah said through gritted teeth. We were told it was a false flag, that the dog overreacted. He didn't, Kayvon said. They did. Noah scrubbed forward in the audio track. More static than silence. But at minute 5, a background voice cut in. Faint, male, authoritative. You clear? Door 3 sealed? Another voice replied. Affirmative. Package stable. Authorization Zulu Black. That's a military code, Noah said. Black tier, off-record transport. Exactly, Kayvon answered. Someone's using security protocols to ghost entire humans. Back in the command center, Lucia was reviewing old ICE files with the agents. When the communication lines started crackling, static rose on the feed from the tunnel as interference spiked. We're losing signal to Greer's unit, the technician said. Lucia stepped forward. You have GPS overlay? Tracking's bouncing, signals being blocked from the inside. She leaned in. They're trying to bury them alive just like they buried her. Meanwhile, in the tunnel, Noah turned to Kayvon. How deep does this go? I don't know, Kayvon said. But I know it's not just this airport, it's everywhere there's unscanned diplomatic cargo. They move them like trade goods. Some never even reach their destination. They vanish in transit. Rook suddenly bristled, barking again. Not frantic but focused. He dashed forward, nose to floor, then stopped beside a small vent panel and sat. Noah bent down, unscrewed the plate. Behind it was a tightly wrapped packet, thermal-sealed cloth. Inside, a girl's bracelet, pink beads with faded letters that spelled ISA. Noah exhaled slowly. She left a marker. Kayvon knelt beside him. She knew someone would come back. The radio in Noah's vest buzzed. Greer, come in. You're in a blackout zone. Emergency override in progress. Static cut the rest. They're shutting us out, Kayvon said. We're running out of time. Then, from deep inside the tunnel ahead, faint, echoing through metal, a soft knock. Tap, 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 then a small voice. The soft voice calling through the vent had confirmed what Noah and Kayvon already feared. Isabella, or someone else like her, was still alive, still inside, and still trying to reach out. The signal from their comms flickered back into range just long enough for Noah to push an emergency alert to the command team. Initiate Phase 2. Full sweep on outbound cargo scheduled in next 90 minutes. Possible extraction target active. Coordinates. Subject. The message cut off mid-transmission. But it was enough. By the time they surfaced back into the secured concourse tunnel, the response team had already mobilized. Black SUVs rolled in behind the hangar compound, lights off. Homeland Security agents flanked the far bay doors. The air was electric, quiet in the way that always preceded chaos. Noah stepped back onto the tarmac with Rook at his side, Kayvon close behind. They're not going to make this easy, Kayvon said. They never do. We've got one chance, Noah muttered, scanning the manifest on a hastily decrypted tablet. Flight designated as Diplomatic Medical Relief. Outbound to Istanbul, stops in Frankfurt and Dubai. Loading in Bay 6 in under 30 minutes. Last-minute added cargo. Class I sealed crate. Aid partnership documentation only. Humanitarian waiver approved. Too clean, Kayvon said. That's where they're hiding them. Rook was already pulling on the lead. Noah didn't hold him back. The dog moved with absolute purpose, nose low, stride sharp. He crossed the tarmac without pause, ignoring shouted orders from confused logistics staff. He stopped cold at a steel-walled shipping container stacked beside oxygen tanks, defibrillator crates, and sealed biohazard boxes. The label on the side read, Class 4. Fragile. Handle with care. Rook let out a sound not heard since the Nevada bust. A growl that turned into a broken, rising bark. Not alert, but confrontation. Open it, Noah ordered. Now. The agent beside him hesitated. That's sealed under Geneva tag, diplomatic layer, medical protocols. Overrate it, Noah snapped. I've got 3 lives inside, maybe more. And that dog hasn't been wrong yet. The crate hissed under the release of its internal pressure lock. The seal broke. When the doors creaked open, the smell was what hit them first. Not of medicine, but stale sweat, metal, and antiseptic masking rock. Inside the steel box, bathed in dim blue LED strips, were 3 girls, barely teenagers, thin to the point of skeletal, huddled against each other in the far corner. Tubes lined their arms. Blankets covered their laps. Their eyes didn't flinch from the light because they hadn't seen it in days, maybe weeks. One of them blinked slowly and whispered something so faint it took a second to register. Right behind us, another replied. Noah glanced down at the girl nearest to him, whose hand trembled as she extended her wrist. There was a medical bracelet, worn, cracked plastic. The name had faded, but the barcode still pulsed under the scanner. When the medic passed it through a handful reader, the results came back in stunned silence. Patient ID Lydia Renner, age at admittance 11, admitted. Kayvon read the screen again. That hospital shut down 4 years ago. Budget cuts. All patients were relocated. Except her, Noah said. Rook sat beside the crate now, calm but alert, eyes fixed on the girls, then looking back toward the stack of nearby containers. He barked once. There's more, Kayvon said. We're not done. Scan all remaining cargo for thermal trace, oxygen fluctuation, and any biometric bleed, Noah ordered. We're tearing every box apart if we have to. One of the girls whispered something again. Her Spanish was whispered something else. Abiatra en el metal mesa bajo. Noah leaned closer. Atra Nina, si. Ella no puede respiration. He stood, voice tightening. She said there was another, in a metal box lower level, couldn't breathe. The girls were safe, for now, but the operation wasn't close to over. The crate with Lydia Renner and the others had been only one of at least a dozen cargo containers marked for humanitarian export. Agents swept the rest of the zone while medics tended to the victims, wrapping them in thermal blankets and administering IVs. But amid the flood of emergency responses, the woman in red, Eliza Voss, remained silent in a nearby secure room, bound to a chair with wrists zip-tied and a steel ring around her ankle, guarded by 2 Homeland officers who had no idea what she was truly capable of. When Noah returned from the hangar, blood still on his gloves from unsealing oxygen masks and peeling tape from fragile wrists, he didn't head to the command tent. He went straight to her. The lights inside the temporary holding cell buzzed faintly. Eliza sat upright, unbothered, as if waiting. Noah stood in the doorway for a beat. We found them, he said. She didn't respond. 3 girls, he added, one with a bracelet from a hospital that shut down 4 years ago, one with ligature marks on both ankles, one who still doesn't. You remembered you, Noah said. Even after 18 months, you trained him for this, didn't you? That made her smile, faint but real. I did, she said. He was never meant to sniff bags at terminals. He was meant to finish what I started. Noah stepped closer. You vanished from the ice system. Everyone thought you were dead. I had to disappear, she said. You don't infiltrate an international trafficking ring with your badge showing. And you don't survive it unless you become something worse than what you're chasing. Rook? Noah asked. Why did they pull him off human ops? Because he found the truck, she answered. And because someone high up realized he couldn't be misdirected. They reassigned him before he could make noise. But you kept feeding him signals, Noah said. Training sessions, unmarked scenarios. That Nevada bust was... I had to know if he could still do it. I had to see if someone would follow his instincts, even when the chain of command told them not to. Noah exhaled. Then help me finish it. Tell me who's behind this. She leaned forward, her tone shifting. I can't prove it yet, but I traced the funding chain from Medcare Global back through 5 dummy logistics firms, all leading to one strategic contractor. Everreach, the same group that handled biometric security upgrades for the Port Authority last year. And the man who signed the purchase order for Zeta 1 Access. He's still active, still in the agency. Name, Noah said. Give me a name. But before she could answer, a crack rang out. Sharp, close, unmistakable. A single suppressed shot split the quiet. Eliza's body jerked slightly, then slumped sideways in the chair, red blooming beneath her ribs. Rook barked, lunging as Noah caught her before she hit the ground. One of the guards shouted, "Shooter, rooftop, northeast." But it was too late. The shot had come from inside the perimeter. Controlled, precise, not an escape, a silencing. Eliza gasped, blood in her mouth. Noah gripped her shoulders. Stay with me. Tell me who. Her voice dropped to a whisper, ragged on the edge of blacking out. He's in the agency. He was there at the start. Noah leaned in. What's his real name? But she only managed one more breath. He's in the room with you, always has been. Her pulse faded. Rook let out a low, pained sound as medics rushed in. But there was nothing they could do. Noah stood slowly, his shirt soaked in her blood. The surveillance team pulled up roof cams, but the shooter had vanished. No trace, no prints, no shell casing. The silence afterward was heavier than anything else. Noah didn't sleep that night. Neither did Rook. The silence left behind after Eliza's final whisper hung like static in every hallway, every breath. Inside the command tent, under flickering screens and half-eaten MREs, a dozen agents pored over manifest lists, sealed warrants and routing protocols. But the most vital clue remained buried, not in paper or pixels, but inside a dog's mind. Rook paced for hours, nostrils flaring every time a container was... He'd been trained to detect adrenaline surges, hormone shifts, carbon dioxide changes, but one file in his archive had never been opened. A prototype recording from an experimental rig strapped to his chest, capturing not only movement and audio but something else, subdermal biometric resonance. The system had never been approved for use. Too expensive, too untested, too abstract. But Eliza had pushed it into Rook's last upgrade 18 months ago. Noah only found it when he accessed a black file folder marked VOSS last sequence, one slideshow at a time. He isolated the audio and enhanced it using D-Axis Forensic Suite. It was subtle, almost ghost-like, a rhythmic thump barely audible under ambient noise, but it repeated. Exactly 78 BPM, 4 sets, each followed by 3 knocks, then silence. As dawn cracked gray across the tarmac, Noah played the pulse wave in the tent. This was recorded from Rook during the Nevada bust, he said. We've just confirmed it uses directional pickup, meaning the heartbeat wasn't his. It came from inside the cargo hold. So? One agent asked. So, Noah said, turning the screen. I ran the waveform through the missing person's biometric database. I used Isabella Marquez's last pediatric EKG, filed by El Paso Children's Health in 2019. There's a 98.4% match. The room went still, but they declared her dead, someone whispered. No body, Noah said, the confirmation. Just removed from the case file, like she never existed. But this proves otherwise. She was alive. Rook didn't just smell her, he heard her heart. Before anyone could respond, Noah's secure phone buzzed, a number with no ID, high-level encryption. He stepped out into the misty loading bay. Greer, he answered. The voice on the other end was calm, male, seasoned. You need to stand down. This is bigger than you. Who is this? Someone who doesn't want to see your career vanish, the voice said. You're on a path you don't understand. Shut down your team, delete what you found, and walk away. Now, Noah asked. You let us find the girls? We allowed enough, the voice replied. But you're digging into oversight now. And oversight, Doesn't tolerate heroes. Noah stared out across the tarmac, Rook sitting quietly beside him, unmoving, loyal. I'm not a hero, Noah said. I just have a heartbeat on tape and a girl whose mother is still waiting. You'll lose everything, the voice warned. Pression, clearance, reputation. We'll burn your name from the system. Then burn it, Noah said, and ended the call. Inside, he returned to the tent and plugged Rook's file into the network core. Upload the raw sequence, he told the tech. No edits, no tags. Push it to our secured DHS archive and every interagency repository. Mark it as a forced disclosure. That'll trigger an audit, the tech warned. Then let it trigger, Noah said. We've hidden too much for too long. Minutes later, the server pinged back. File ID confirmed. Match with previously deceased subject Isla Borges, Isabella. DHS intercept required. The case had been automatically reactivated. An internal alert fired to 28 agencies. Red flags soared. Names that had been buried started blinking again. And someone, somewhere, was watching, because just 2 minutes after the file went live, a second call came. This time to the Deputy Director of Homeland Security, and one sentence passed through crypted lines before the connection severed. Rook knows. The pressure built faster than anyone anticipated. Within 72 hours of the biometric data upload, a classified oversight report leaked to 4 news agencies. The media, hungry for a headline more visceral than budget cuts and airport delays, latched onto it with ferocity. DHS K9 uncovers human trafficking cell under diplomatic shield, blared across national screens. But it wasn't just the story, it was the name. First came the confirmation of Isabella Marquez's existence. Then came the manifest lists with redacted markings, slowly unsealed one by one. The final blow hit when the forensic finance team, prompted by the Rook incident report, traced the flow of humanitarian cargo approvals back through a network of shell NGOs and international aid brokers. At the top of that pyramid stood Senator Walter Dunning, Senior Committee Chair on Humanitarian and Border Oversight, Sixth representative from Virginia, decorated veteran, father of 2. For over a decade, he'd lobbied for express routes for diplomatic aid, special authorization for unscreened cargo on international flights, and exemptions on biometric screenings. When federal agents approached his townhouse in Arlington, he was hosting a dinner for 3 executives from Everreach Logistics. He opened the door himself, didn't deny it, didn't speak, just looked past the agents and whispered, "It was never supposed to get out." The trial was swift by federal standards. The evidence, compiled from encrypted messages, diverted wire transfers, and 37 suppressed cargo incident reports, painted a damning picture of how power shoulds corruption. The victims began to come forward. Those rescued from the crates, those who had escaped years before but lived in hiding. One girl, now 23, said she remembered being told, "Stay quiet or the senator will send you back underground." That sentence alone erased any doubt. Dunning pled guilty to conspiracy, trafficking, abuse of international aid channels, and obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to life without parole. But while the media chased headlines and courtrooms filled with flashbulbs, something quieter happened behind the noise. Rook, no longer a government asset, had been retired with full honors. His handler, Noah Greer, declined all interviews. He gave one statement. He was following a voice no one else was listening to. A month later, in a small ceremony at a regional DHS training facility in Texas, a flag was presented, not for the fallen but for the silent survivors. Lucia Marquez stood beside Rook, her hand gently resting on his fur, while officers and agents, many of whom once doubted, watched in reverent silence. She didn't speak at the podium. She didn't need to. Instead, as the ceremony ended and the honor guard began to disperse, Noah leaned down beside Rook and whispered, "You didn't just find them. You listened when the rest of us chose silence. You heard what we buried." He paused, eyes wet but steady. "Rook, you heard the heartbeat of the living, right in the place where silence was meant to bury it." Rook looked up, ears tilted as if he understood. Then he turned to Lucia, pressed his head against her leg and exhaled. Somewhere in that breath was the sound of closure. Not the kind that ends grief, but the kind that tells you grief was heard finally and made real. That night, as the sun dropped over El Paso and the lights of the city flickered on, Rook lay in the yard of his new home, A quiet house with wind chimes and a back gate that never stayed locked. Beside him sat Lucia, a worn photo of her daughter in hand. She didn't speak either, just looked toward the stars and whispered gracias. And in the distance, barely heard over the rustling trees, came 3 soft knocks. Tap, 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 then silence. But this time, it was the silence of peace. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe to support more true-to-life storytelling like this. Which moment struck you the hardest? Where are you watching from? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what part stayed with you.